Hello there, welcome back to another review. Today I thought I'd mix things up a bit and look at Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. Very different to what type of films I've been reviewing so far. But I just thought I'd just go against the grain a little bit, do something a bit off the wall, and just have a look at Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. Because at the time, in the 90s, Michael Jackson was a big deal. Michael Jackson was a huge, big thing. So any new video from him, new single, new song, new album, anything it may be that you people had to know. People was curious about it. It was like, have you seen the new video? Have you heard the new song? It was that's. I mean, Michael Jackson was humongously mega, like big. So not going to get into the man himself. Not going to. This isn't a character assassination of Michael Jackson. This isn't nothing to do with him as a person at all. This is just about the film Moonwalker. My thoughts on it, what I feel about it. I mean, this is one of the films I saw as a kid. Saw countless times actually as a kid, so I'm just giving you sort of my sort of review on it now. Just what I feel about the film, not going into like the Blu-ray itself, because there's no point. There's not a lot of extras on it as regarding special features. I will say actually there are some scenes cut from this UK Blu-ray release that are in the original. I think when Joe Pesci's character Mr. Big, I think when he's going to inject the little girl Katie, I think with heroin, I think that's cut a little bit from what I remember, and I think he hit her a few more times than what's in this release. I'm not sure, but it does seem like there's a little bit missing, because I say I've seen it countless amount of times. But yeah, if at the time you have to remember, it was a bit of a gimmick to, well, it's a novelty to have a pop star, a musician, or anybody like that in a video game. Like, that was something totally new, and that's why Moonwalker at the time was quite a big deal. I mean, like I said, Michael Jackson was huge. So Moonwalker, like, to be a film and then a video game starring like the world's most famous pop star, it was something new. You know, it really was totally. I'm not saying it was like groundbreaking or revolutionary, but it was just like it'd never been done before. It sort of never, that concept of taking somebody out of one sort of area of, what they do, profession, and then putting them into something else, another different outlet, video games, whatever, was totally new. So that's why Moonwalker was quite a big deal, and I think it sort of not struck a chord, but a lot of people remember it. If you were in the 90s, like late 80s, a lot of people remember it. I remember it had as well games on the Mega Drive and the Master System. I believe at one point I did have the Master System version. Not getting into that game now, as I say, this is just about the film. So it was just, as I say, 1988 when it released, and I think it was around the time Michael Jackson was promoting the Bad album. I think it was around the Bad tour. I think it was meant to sort of meant to coincide with the Bad tour or something like that. Going back to previous what I mentioned about Moonwalker, the game that came out on Mega Drive and Master System. Obviously, I think we all know the story that Michael Jackson was in talks to compose some of the songs or for Sonic the Hedgehog 3. So there's definitely a connection with Sega there and Michael Jackson. But the film, for the most part, is sort of an anthology compilation music videos from Michael Jackson, which may like there's not really much in the way of narrative to speak of with this film. Even though they do inject one, a sort of about 2/3 the way into just after the first third of the movie. I mean, in my humble opinion, being a Michael Jackson fan when I was younger, it's worth watching just for the like smooth criminal segment. But it was one of them films that, as a kid, I never really understood it, but I liked it for whatever reason that may be. I never really got what was going on, and even watching it now, I don't really get. I understand it's like a compilation of Michael Jackson anthology with a sort of a story injected in there, but even now, at the time, if it was on at Christmas, and I rented it from the video store a couple of times, but even if it was on at Christmas or on TV, Moonwalker's on, I got to watch it, and for some reason it wasn't that I hated it, it wasn't that I liked it, it was just that I couldn't figure it out. I could not get what this film was about or what it was trying to be. I couldn't understand what the premise of this is. Don't get me wrong, the music was great and everything, but there was no sort of real sort of film there as such, and I think that was one of the main gripes people had with this film, that there wasn't really quote unquote a film there. It was mainly, like I say, there was some live footage, there was elements of music videos there, and there was like this narrative going on, but aside from that, it was hard to really make out what on earth was going on with this film. I'd say I rented it from the video shop, and I just had to watch it because I could never just figure this film out. I think thing a lot of people, the segment a lot of people most recall about this movie is the bad video when they're actually all kids, and then it goes really bizarre, like they walk through smoke and then suddenly he's adult Michael Jackson, like, you know, and that sort of, that's quite early on in the film, so that sort of gives you the sort of idea of what is this kind of film is, because sort of no rules apply here, anything can happen, and believe you and me, it does. Believe you and me, when I say anything can happen, it does. I mean, the film opens up with Man in the Mirror, then it goes into like a Jackson 5 segment. Then Michael Jackson is chased by tourists with big heads, which is weird enough, using some sort of clay, weird, freaky animation style. Then he uses this sort of bunny head to get away, and Speed Demon kicks in, the song Speed Demon. And during this whole sequence, you get references, there's like character references to Steven Spielberg, Tina Turner, Pee Wee Herman. I mean, you know, if you're about 7 years or 8 years old watching this, you're like, what, you know, what have I just took? Like, what is going on? But at the time, as a kid, for some reason, it wasn't like I found it odd. I was just sort of, okay, you know, but I couldn't figure out, like I say, whether I hated it or disliked it. And I feel the same about it now. Again, nothing about Michael Jackson here, but I'm just talking about the film itself. It's a very sort of, it's an odd commodity, this film. It's a really, really strange piece of like cinema, because as I say, it's not a film, it's not a music video, it's not a live show, it's just sort of all them things and none of them things at the same time. I'm not bashing this at all, but it was just sort of, it was very big. I'm gonna say it sold really well. It did do really well for itself, but it's like I say, I just can't figure it out. Even now, I think it'll be one of the films for years and years I'll still watch every now and then. And I still just can't get to the bottom of what this film is trying to be. And then the film switches to this really odd narrative of these poor homeless children who watch Michael get shot at by Mr. Big, played by Joe Pesci. And turns out they used to hang out with Michael at some stage. They have like this flashback with them all happy and playing football in this meadow, and it's sunny and everybody's happy and laughing, and the dog's running around, there's flowers, it's beautiful, it looks like a commercial. Then the dog goes missing, and Michael and Katie, the little girl, they discover Mr. Big's lair and discover his master plans to get children hooked on heroin. And it's never explained sort of the backstory and how Michael knew these children or how they become homeless. Like, that's sort of, they're homeless, they don't know when their next meal's coming in. So Michael was spending time with them, hanging out with them, life was great, everything was good. Then suddenly they're on the streets sort of fending for themselves, not sure where to go, while it's like, what is going on? You know, it's like, if they're homeless, I mean, maybe he was just like taking care of them for the day or something, I don't know. But if you're going to inject a narrative, make it have a little bit of sense or just a little bit of context. It's like, these kids were having a great time with Michael, then they're just on the streets, like really roughing it. You know, okay. So it's after this sort of segment that the film becomes weird. I mean, if it wasn't not weird, it just becomes bonkers. It just becomes mad, like insane, like if it wasn't enough already. Basically, Michael gets trapped down an alleyway, and he wishes upon a star. Then he turns into a car. Then later on, Katie, the little girl, again gets kidnapped, and then Michael turns into a giant robot, complete with missiles, lasers, and shields, and turns into then a spaceship. And it finally ends with Michael doing a cover of the Beatles' Come Together, and that is basically me, with everything I've said in this review so far, everything that happens in the film. So yeah, he turns into this great big robot. Then, as I say, he was a car as well before that. Then he was a little boy. Then he turned into a grown-up. Then he put a bunny head on when he was in the motorcycle chase, and he turned into a bunny for a while. Then he had this sort of... It's funny actually watching the scene where he dances with the bunny, when the bunny's sort of... The rabbit's sort of dancing with him. It's like you get... It's sort of like what Men in Black, what Will Smith done in the Men in Black video about 10 years later. Whereas I think actually Michael Jackson one hasn't aged as bad as like the Will Smith Men in Black, the CGI in that. But yeah, Moonwalker, there's not a lot to say about it really. I just thought I'd just bring it to people's attention because if you haven't seen this film, whether or not you're a fan of Michael Jackson, check it out, because it is just, you can't figure it out. It starts off well enough, you know, all good, and then after about the 20-minute mark, you're just into the realms of what is going on. I'm not saying that's bad, it's not a criticism, but it's just, okay, let's, you know, it's just really odd watching this film and as an adult after all these years, after all this time. I can't really classify its if it's a movie, if it isn't. To me, it's just a piece of my childhood. I know this film has its haters, but I sort of stick by it because I just remember it growing up. I just remember this film growing up. I remember it being in the video shop. I remember it being on telly a lot. And whenever it was on the TV, I had to watch it. It was just one of them films. But if you've never seen Moonwalker, as I say, check it out. Not bashing Michael Jackson at all. Was a huge fan of Michael Jackson back in the 90s. As I say, I think this came out around the Bad album time. So you can make out, some people love this film, some people hate it. I'm still trying to figure it out, so take it that I like it. So check out Moonwalker.